Okay, show 6 of Go Big
or Go Home.
All right, the crew is locked in and here, ready to go. This is, of course, NBC's podcast on Big Ten men's and women's basketball. I'm Zora Stephenson. She's Meghan McKeown. He's Robbie Hummel. And we're in the thick of it now. Thick of conference play. Stuff is getting spicy. A couple weeks ago, Wisconsin couldn't be touched on the men's side. Now, are they continuing? Like, are they still in that 4-game losing streak, Robbie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 4-game losing streak. They lose at Nebraska in overtime in a game that they led in the second half by, I think, 18 was the biggest lead. They lose to Purdue at home. You know, no shame in that. And honestly, no shame in losing at Nebraska. A lot of teams have lost there. It's the way that they lost. Then they went on the road to Michigan, who has really struggled and is dealing with the Doug McDaniel plays home games. He does not play road games stretch here. They lose there, which was shocking. They lose 72-68 in Ann Arbor, and then they lose on Saturday at Rutgers, 78-56. And Rutgers is a team that hasn't been able to score. Now they've gotten a player eligible, which has kind of helped them. A transfer that's been able to play thanks to the joys of lawsuits that we have seen. So that has kind of changed. Jeremiah Williams is able to play now for Rutgers. So that does they've added a piece, kind of like at the deadline, I suppose, like we're talking about pro sports. But Wisconsin, they've got some issues. You know, their defense has not been great this year, but it's been masked by the fact that their offense has been so good. And all of a sudden, they're not scoring points. You know, 56 at Rutgers, 68 at Michigan. And Rutgers is a good defensive team. Michigan is not. You know, the three-point shooting has really dried up. They have not made shots from the perimeter. Stephen Crowell has kind of been a non-factor for them offensively. A.J. Storr is very talented. There's no questioning that. His shot selection can find himself in Greg Gard's doghouse at times. So, huge game Tuesday. Peacock game. They play Ohio State at home in what has to be a get-right game for Wisconsin. And for Ohio State, it's got to be, man, this is the season. We need quad one wins if we want to make the NCAA tournament. And this would be a quad one win against a team that's really, really struggling right now.
It's so wild how 1 week, a couple of games can shift everything.
Totally.
We're transferring over to the women. I mean, Ohio State right now is the number 1 team in the Big Ten. Like, if the tournament starts today, they got that number 1 seed. Megan, you were on the call for their last game against Michigan State, which I thought was going to be a great matchup, you know, close game, and it was the complete opposite. What did you see there?
Funny enough, I thought that the Iowa-Nebraska game was going to be a blowout and the Michigan State-Ohio State game was going to be tight, but it was the opposite. Ohio State looked like a 1 seed, not only in the Big Ten tournament, but the NCAA tournament. You had 3 of Ohio State's top leading scorers, J.C. Sheldon, Taylor Theory, Cody McMahon, pick up 3 fouls in the second quarter. They sat for most of the first half. And you have the bench come in, and they got like a 20-point lead once those 3 players went out. It was unbelievable. So to me, that just shows you that Ohio State has depth. And I mean, Robbie, Zora, you guys know this better than anyone. Like, teams that make deep runs in March, you have to have depth, and you have to be able to go to the bench and rely on people to come in and provide sparks and do little things. And Ohio State is finally clicking. It's fascinating to see how teams are adjusting with this new life of the transfer portal in college basketball. You have teams that don't come together at all, even though they have tons of talent that they were able to get in the portal. Sometimes it doesn't work out. And then sometimes it takes teams some time to get that chemistry and build it. Ohio State brings Celeste Taylor in from Duke. They finally have started to get that chemistry and playing with each other, understanding each other's games. And, you know, her role is now more defined as that scorer whenever it comes to her, but also just defensive presence that she provides. Overall, that was one of the most balanced wins I've seen Ohio State get. They had 28 assists as a team. You got to love that if you're a coach.
When's the right time to – is it right now? We're in mid-February. Do you want to keep, you know, ascending towards – when is the right time for things to start to come together? Because you always worry about when a team is clicking too early because there's going to be a slump in the season. Robbie, what's the prime time for teams to feel like
That's a great question. I think if I knew the answer to that, I'd be coaching. Like if I knew how to do this and knew when to do it, I'd probably not be doing this job. But it's obviously you want to be playing your best basketball late in the season. But I look at this still as like the dog days of February. And I don't know how you guys felt when you were playing, but this was the most difficult time in the season because the games still are equally as important. But you've been playing since October. We'd started practice. October 15th was the magical date for when we could start. Now it's kind of like start whenever. The calendar has changed. But I just always felt like, man, we had conditioning in September. We started practicing in October. We played in November. We played in December. We played in January. You can smell the NCAA tournament. You can smell the Big Ten tournament. And those have a different feel. Like the ability to be a Big Ten champion over the course of 3 or 4 days brings a level of hype to playing an event like that. The NCAA tournament speaks for itself. You're playing on the biggest stage, but these games in February, they mean a lot. You can make or break your season. It can get you in the NCAA tournament. It can play you out of the tournament. It can make you a Big Ten champion. It can take that away, right? Like there's so much at stake, but I don't know if that answer, like, do you want to be playing your best basketball on March 1st? Do you want to be playing your best basketball? I assume it's like, you want to be peaking going into postseason play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like the magical line you walk of like, we don't want to peak too early. We don't want to play our best basketball on February 18th, but we certainly want to be doing it come March, I think is probably the answer to what should have been an easy answer, but I just gave a 2-minute one. So sorry.
No, because I think the key is just being able to handle adversity.
Yeah.
And Megan, you spoke to it, Ohio State had a little bit of adversity with the foul trouble against Michigan State. And you got to have players that don't necessarily get 15 plus minutes a game, but have to come in and produce. Mm-hmm. And they didn't know that going into the game. Like, you just have to be able to say Iowa in that situation with Nebraska. Caitlin goes over in the fourth quarter. Like, you have to have somebody else that is just feeling it because they know it's just not Caitlin's time at that moment. You just have to have people that are going to pop up at the right moments. Robbie, what the seeding wise on the men's side, how many teams historically make the NCAA tournament? Well, where do you have to be?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about how many Big Ten teams will make the tournament or how many we normally get. I feel like in the last couple of years, the discussion, Andy Katz has been the king of this talking point. It's been like 9 and 10. It's been a lot. This year, it's probably going to be less, honestly. I think Purdue is a lock. Illinois, I would say, is a lock. Wisconsin, I still think is locked in there with some of their wins that they have. Michigan State got a big win this last weekend in beating Illinois at home, which gives them another signature victory to go alongside their Baylor win. And then I think Nebraska and Northwestern right now are on the right side of the NCAA tournament. And I don't think the bubble is necessarily strong on the men's side of things. So, I think normally the Big Ten over the last 4 or 5 years, it's been 8, 9, and 10 teams. And this year, I think we're going to get 6.
On the women's side, I believe it was 7 last year. And the only other conference that had more was the ACC. I feel like that holds true this year, Megan?
If you asked me a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I was like down on the Big Ten kind of because of that parity piece. And it's hard to keep the perspective of, you beat up each other in this conference. And like any given day, I'm working on a piece right now and it's like so-and-so who beat so-and-so. And I believe it's going to work to go in a complete circle with like people coming up with these massive wins over each other that aren't supposed to win games. So I could see 6 for sure getting in right now, maybe 7. It's going to depend. Like these next 3 weeks are so important. And Robbie spoke to it, like peaking at the right time. Do you want to do it like March 1st? Is it now? If you are not confident and connected as a team right now, it's going to be really hard to make a run in March. So right now is where you kind of want to see the pieces coming together. I talked to Kevin McGuff and he said last year we had a weird thing where we peaked twice. We started out the year 18-0, went through like a complete valley, and then in March we peaked again. It was a weird thing. It's like a mountain range. But you want to be confident and connected in February because once March comes, like that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. One circle I'm thinking of, okay, on the women's side. Michigan beats Ohio State, but Michigan State beats Michigan. So remember, Michigan beat Ohio State, but Michigan State gets blown out by Ohio State.
Wait, you're right. Wait, Michigan State beat Michigan, right?
Michigan State beat Michigan,
That's gonna
and
work
Michigan beat
my total.
Ohio State. But Michigan State lost to Ohio State.
Right. So it's like Iowa, who beat Indiana, who I believe beat Michigan State, who beat Michigan, who beat Ohio State, who beat Wisconsin, who beat Penn State. Like, I mean, it's going to be a wild when I get done with it.
It's the transitive property from math class, right? Like, that's what that is.
Look at that Purdue education coming into play right now, Robbie Hummel.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy. And come tournament time, I'm curious to see, because a lot of these Big Ten teams on the women's side schedule tough non-conference games. A lot of them also played UCLA and USC, and no one could beat them. So that's going to be fun next year. But that being said, I'm curious what the committee is going to put their biggest focus and emphasis on when it comes to the resumes moving forward in March.
Yeah. We're bearing the lead here because there's some big things coming up this week in the Big Ten, specifically on the women's side. Caitlin Clark, 8 points away from the women's NCAA record. Robbie, you thought she was going to get 39.
Hey, the lotto was struck. The lotto was struck by two of the three podcasters on this pod. So two of us will see this happen, which is congratulations on winning the lottery, guys. That is good. Those are the types of games you want to get. But yeah, I was hoping she'd go for, like, hey, I want you guys to see this. That's not what I meant. But going for like 45 and breaking the record would be some legendary stuff. At least she didn't score 37, where on her first bucket, you're like, and now the record has fallen, right? Like, it'll be, what, 8? She needs 8 points?
8.
All right. So hopefully it's her 8th on her way to her, like, 50th point. That's what we're rooting for here, right? Like, let's see that then.
What do you think the impact is of being able to do it at home?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was a 90s Bulls fan growing up, and they were only able to clinch one of their championships in Chicago. And I just think about, like, when you get to share that with the fans who have watched you build this, and certainly Caitlin has built an incredible resume career. That's going to be special. I mean, that ticket they'll be scalping those things for like $1,000 to be in the lower section of Carver Hawkeye. And she's already done incredible things in terms of attendance, selling out the season, selling out road venues. I mean, we've seen a court storming that's, like, been insane at Ohio State. There's so many things that go into what her season has been. But, like, to get to do this in front of all the people that really care about you the most. And look, if she had broken it at Nebraska, I didn't get to watch much of the game because I was doing the Northwestern Penn State game yesterday, but it sounded like it was an insane atmosphere. Like, it would have been really special there too, but it just ramps it up a level, I think, to get to do it in front of the people that have seen you play all 4 years of your career.
We may even have to pay for our credentials.
I know. Could be like
the booth. Yeah. They may sell the booth.
Yeah, seriously.
We have to call the game standing up.
Those are valuable right there. We might want to hang on to that one.
I know. I know. Right. It's going to be awesome. And, I've been really fortunate to have called Caitlin's games since she started. Actually, I always, like, joke. She, like, started when I started, calling games. So I called her first ever game on TV, and remember Zooming with her because it was during COVID and we couldn't, meet in person, and just being blown away by her maturity and her poise as a freshman at 18 years old, who none of us knew what her career would end up being. And so to watch her progress, not only as a player and just continue to develop and get better and in all areas of the game, but also, like, she's a really great person. And someone who's a great ambassador for the game, and someone who I think is going to have a very successful pro career as she moves on to the next level. If she does that this upcoming year and next, we'll find out soon, I suppose. But what Caitlin Clark has done, not just for women's basketball, but for college basketball overall, is something that I don't know if we'll ever see again.
Megan, you have a really unique perspective on her career and her growth as a human. Where is the biggest area that you've seen progress, both as a person in the way, in the way she articulates the game and what she's talking about, and now on the floor as well.
Well, on the floor, her patience is much improved. Like her freshman year, she would get really frustrated, and she's always had that turnover component that's been somewhat of an issue. And part of that is just because she plays so fast that people aren't ready. And that, as a point guard, you have to adjust to that. And, if people can't keep up, you have to slow down a little bit and make the right reads. But she's been a lot more patient and put with this year to me sticks out as what's been so impressive about what she's done, because Iowa had the same starting five for 3 years. So you have 3 seasons to build upon that chemistry. They ultimately ended their career together in the national championship game last year. But for her to come in and adjust to getting more time with different players, different styles, and they're still succeeding at a high level, that's to me is what's been so impressive about that, poise, maturity, patience piece for her. And then as a person, I think she's handled this whole entire hoopla around her the last 8 months to a year like a pro. She's 22 years old. She just turned 22 last month. And she is handling State Farm commercials, Nike deals, Gatorade, you name it, any big name sponsor. And she's dealing with having thousands and thousands and thousands of people constantly screaming her name. She's dealt with social media hype and criticism. She's dealt with so many things, and I think has handled it the best way you could possibly handle it, and still has focused on being a student and being a good teammate and winning games and being consistent throughout her career. So, props to her, because what she's doing right now as a person, I don't know many people that could handle the amount of stress that she is under.
What are the chances that she's back next year? What are your guys' gut feelings? Is she back in college?
Go ahead.
I think she's going.
Oh,
yeah, I think she's going to.
Zora, you said you think she's gone or going to?
Going to the W.
Oh, okay. She's going to be gone. Okay.
She's achieved.
Right. This is just,
she's done everything she can do at the college level.
I was just thinking from a finances standpoint.
Those become endorsements, right?
No, and it's not like they go away. She's still who she is. Man, she could shatter the record. But I do think it's kind of cool to do it in 4 years too, because then it's like a traditional. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
And she's going to get Pistol Pete. I'm thinking too far ahead here, but she'll get that too.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's wrap up our CC talk with, okay, do you want her to get it on a 3? You want her to get it at the free throw line? You want her to get it at the rim? What ways would let me reframe this. What ways would you want to break a record? What kind of shot?
Logo 3.
Yeah.
Same.
I will say this. I was actually a player in the game when Kobe Bryant passed Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list at the Target Center. And he had a look on a fadeaway jumper that would have passed Jordan. And I was not in the game at the time. But my thought was, if he had done it like that, it would have been sick. And then the thing that sucked was we fouled him, and he broke it at the foul line. And it was it's just kind of like a boring, I agree with Megan. I want a 3 that is so deep and so contested and so tough. That would be the ultimate right there. But I saw Kobe do it, and it's doing it at the line sucks. I hope it's not that. That's such a anticlimactic ending to an incredible story. Not ending, but I guess piece to an incredible story. So I hope it's not that. I hope it's a 3.
Well, and she talks so much about not knowing where she's at in terms of all these numbers. I hope she knows, when it's at 5.
She might say that, but she knows. Every player that's a scorer knows how many points they've got. We are all guilty of that. Everyone's aware that your number of points you have, and when a milestone's coming up, you're pretty aware of that too. It's the right thing to say. I don't believe it though.
Yeah, you're sneaking peeks up at the scoreboard.
Oh,
those boards tell your stats.
Right? Yeah, we're sneaking peeks.
I was talking to Zach Edey. Where were we at? It was a game I was doing of theirs, and they had points on the board, but they didn't have rebounds. And he was getting close to his career high. And I had to interview him after. I think it was at Iowa. Iowa didn't have the rebounds on the board. And he goes, man, I wish I knew how many rebounds I had. I was really trying to break my personal best, my career high. And so do not believe players when they say they're not aware of their stats.
Come on, Carver Hawkeye. Put the rebounds
up. We need the rebounds too, not just the points.
Oh, goodness. Before we go, Robbie, any men's games that we need to be aware of this week that are on your mind?
Well, I think, Wisconsin, Ohio State is certainly a big one. Maryland, Illinois on Saturday, I think is a game where Illinois has had a hard time closing out some games. And that's going to be a place where Maryland's been better, kind of at home the last 2 years. Dealing with Jameer Young is going to be tough. But yeah, this league is every night is hard. I just think the Big Ten for the men's side this year, is there a bottom in terms of standings? Yes, there is. And there's certainly teams that are not as good as others, but those teams have beat people. Michigan is 3-10 in the league. Well, they beat Wisconsin at home. Ohio State has had some struggles. They're capable. Maryland is third to last in the Big Ten right now. And Jameer Young and Julian Reese are good. Like, they are good players, and they've beaten some good teams. So there's never an easy night, and it's going to be another fun week of Big Ten hoops.
I think you could say that for both sides. Okay, we always end with some fun stuff. If you could have any 2 superpowers, which would you choose? I'll give you some time. I was because I did have, a little sneak peek at the question. I was thinking like the ability to just heal.
Oh yeah.
Like in the Hunger Games. That
like Wolverine. Like Wolverine would just like heal, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, just to heal from anything. And then out like something like, more lighthearted. Some people say invisible. No, flying would be pretty cool.
I want to be teleportation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I don't have to worry about delays and.
Well, then you can go to the lounge. I'm not letting you in the lounge. If you're.
Well, I can teleport into the lounge, and then I can teleport on my way.
I'm going to agree with teleportation because that would make this job way easier. I wouldn't have to literally wake up at 4 a.m. to make a 6 a.m. flight. Yeah, give me teleportation.
About a 6 a.m. flight.
And give me the ability to golf like Tiger Woods. Like, literally let me be Tiger. And that would be, let me golf like him. And if I could teleport and golf like Tiger, my life would be set.
Yeah. Well, yes, that is a fact.
Well, in many ways. In many ways, it would be.
Well, fun show today, crew. Appreciate you all. And we will reconvene and see what happens next week in this crazy, crazy league. That is another episode of Go Big.
Go home.
Go big or go home.